Cheers!
Cheers!
Welcome back to episode 5.
5 already.
We are pumping out the content for
We
you.
got we got lots to say on the topic. Can you
Well,
tell?
pumping out, get it, honey? Because
Speaking of which,
we want to talk to you guys about breastfeeding, non-breastfeeding, formula, pumping, that whole realm of conversation
of mom life.
of mom life.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll crop that. Words are hard for me sometimes.
It's okay. It's normal. It's mom brain and it's relatable.
Okay.
I like it. But
Okay, fine.
we are
We'll
your
do it.
hosts, Carly and Becca, and we are here again talking about the unfiltered, as you can tell, mom life
Yes.
and all it comes with.
You know what? You're right. We are not aiming for perfection here. We are just giving you what we got. And some days I only got enough to converse that well. So here we are.
Yes.
Um, wait, so I feel like we've never spoken about this, obviously, because we're getting to know one another, but
Which I love, by the way.
I
I was
know
just
that
talking to someone and they said that they love listening to our podcast because they like watching us become friends and like
I
learn.
love that because
I
I love
know.
becoming your friend.
We are I'm your friend already now. The
Um,
second we embarked on this journey together, we were friends.
yes. Well, no, so I was gonna say I know that you weren't pumping or didn't have breast milk, which is why we met because you came to pick up my breast milk for Vienna's diaper rash.
That's right.
But how did do you want to talk about was your plan to breastfeed when you got pregnant?
No.
Oh,
This is going to be an interesting topic. So,
because you didn't want to be pregnant.
right. But also because if you're someone listening right now and you are too close to me and you don't want to hear about, sexual things that happen with me, then I would stop listening now. But
Love that.
if you
Good
don't care, if
morning.
you don't know me or you're a girl and you just genuinely don't care, my boobs have always been like a sensitive part of me.
Okay.
And they're for me. So breastfeeding for me I didn't see the appeal. Like I was like, that might be too weird for me. Like I don't know if I want to do that. And my mom, you know, our own moms can mom shame us and it's normal, I guess. She was like, what do you mean you're not going to breastfeed? You have to breastfeed. That's ridiculous. Blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, okay, like maybe, like we'll see. If anything, I said I would pump. I just did not want to breastfeed.
Okay.
So obviously that kind of worked out when Vienna was taken to the NICU. I did not
Right.
have a chance.
Right.
She was immediately put on formula. Like that is immediate because there's nothing else to give her. And it was so minimal, but the formula that they use in the hospital, I knew nothing about too much about formula. I mean, obviously where I worked, we would get formula samples
Was it
from my.
like the pre-made Enfamil?
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's great. That stuff is great, but it's not at this point in my life. I am on Yuka App City where I am constantly, everything gets scanned. So at that point, I didn't really know. I knew a little bit because we give out samples at the doctor's office that I work at. We would get samples constantly of Similac and Enfamil. And so they gave her Enfamil, whatever. And I felt super guilty that she was in the NICU and like I couldn't go see her. It took me 12 hours to get my legs working after the
Right.
epidural. So I was like, well, what can I do for her in the meantime? And the only thing I could do was talk to the lactation consultant because it's kind of like a requirement. The lactation consultant comes in, speaks to you. Are you planning on breastfeeding? And blah, blah. And I'm like, I wasn't, but like, I guess I could
That's
try
nice that
because
they asked you that because I was not
yes,
asked.
you were not.
No, we'll get there.
Okay. All right. So basically, I was showering after my delivery
Right.
and I was washing myself and I noticed that something was coming out of my boobs. And I was like, is
Wait, no
this?
way.
Yes. Because of hot water, I guess. Like, so I was like, wait, okay. So then the lactation consultant came in as soon as I was showered. And I was like, well, I wasn't going to try, but I guess I could try. And she was like, okay, I'll bring in the whole thing. So they bring in a whole pumping set, like everything you need, syringes to take out the breast milk because they expect you to get this much, you know?
Right.
So I did it and I got colostrum, which is
Gold.
amazing. Yeah, it's liquid gold. And I'm like, wait, that's crazy. Let me do it again. Let me do it again. So by the time the 12 hours finally were up and I could go down to the NICU, I had a bag full of syringes of colostrum.
That's incredible.
It was insane. I and then just to cut it short and make short and sweet, I never breastfed. I was an overproducer for 6 weeks, overproducing like when you see like couples and they're laughing because they're making so much money in movies that's like a drug movie and they're just packaging drugs and there's just some drugs falling off the table and they're like don't care because they have so much money, they're like whatever. That was me and Zach with breast milk. It was
Wow.
everywhere all the time. It would fall out of the it would overfill the pumps and the pumps would start overflowing and I would just be like sweeping it away, like if so much, freezing it, giving it to her, putting it in jars, like doing I didn't know what to do with it all. And then on week 6, I woke up and I went to pump and there was an ounce total,
Wow.
30 minutes. Yeah. And so I was like, what the heck? So then I spent the next 2 weeks doing all of the tricks in the book to try and get it back, like literally
Wait,
everything.
how did that feel emotionally after having come to terms and being like happy to then be producing your own milk and giving her that to then like cold turkey not having anything coming out of you?
That's interesting. I was honestly not bothered by it.
Okay.
I was kind of like relieved. I hated it. It made my boobs hurt like really
Yeah.
bad. My nipples were constantly hurting. Every time I would wake up in the morning, I was drenched in breast milk. Like it was everywhere. When I tell you everywhere, it was everywhere.
That's
Like
so wild.
I'd put like the nursing pads on. An hour later, I had just pumped 9 ounces. An hour later, it's dripping down past, it's already been soaked up by the padding of my bra and by the nursing pad, and it's dripping down my stomach. It was everywhere. The second I got out of the shower, I was like, have the pumps ready, Zach, because like it was like in the shower, it was just dripping down my body. Like it was, I don't know what was happening. So
It's
I was
so
kind of relieved.
yeah, no, 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 and that makes sense, but it's interesting still having like I also breastfed, which we'll get to, but like I never like I bought those nursing pads for my bra and I never used one.
That's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was everywhere. So when it after the 2 weeks of me attempting everything under the sun, Vienna was 2 months old. I couldn't get any more, and so I was like, well, that's it. I tried everything. So you name it, like all the things that you hear.
Yeah.
So much water, so much protein and food. I was like overloading on food trying to produce Oreos, body armor, the lactation cookies that they say to try.
Yeah.
A different pump. I got a different pump. I tried actually breastfeeding. So that was an interesting experience. Not good. We
When
tried.
so wait, you had tried that at the 2-month mark?
Yeah, because I was like, I need to try. Like everyone was like, try this, try that. So I just tried everything. So I literally like
But
had
did you
her.
actually want to try or did you feel like you had to
No,
jump?
yeah, I felt like I had to. But
Interesting.
she did latch, but
Oh,
was upset that nothing was coming out and like immediately stopped and screamed. So
mm,
I was just done. It was empty. The well was empty. The well
thanks,
was dry.
empty.
Yep. So then I just went to Kendamil formula because I did some research and that was it.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you did research because we gave Jules that and I did very little research, so I'm happy.
It's good stuff.
Right.
So tell me
um,
what happened with you? Because you had just come out of surgery essentially.
right. So when I first got pregnant, and really before being pregnant, I never was someone who looked forward to being a mom who was breastfeeding their baby. Like I saw other people doing it and there was never any part of me that was like, I can't wait to do that. I actually just didn't want to breastfeed at all. I
Right.
wasn't breastfed. Um, my husband wasn't breastfed and like we turned out pretty okay.
Right.
So I I don't know, I just didn't want to and there were people judgmental when I would say that. Like I felt like whenever they were like, "Oh, are you going to breastfeed?" and I was like, "No." There was like, "Why not? Like, it's
Right.
so
Because I
good."
don't want to, maybe, like
Right. So like that was where like I started to feel like pressured, but it never changed my decision at all. Like I didn't fall victim to that pressure.
That's good.
Um, and then in the hospital, so up until literally like my third trimester, um, zero desire. And then like I kind of got to a point where I was like, you know what? Maybe if it works, it works. But also, like, I won't be upset if it doesn't. Like, I
Right.
don't care.
But
Um,
I feel like that's a really good mentality to have going into it, because
and
then you're not basing your like sanity on your ability to
right,
do that.
right. And it is an emotional thing, because obviously we talked about, boundaries and taking care of our baby and like doing our best. And like one of the biggest things that people feel you can do for your child is to breastfeed them, to provide them those nutrients. So obviously, we want to do what's right by our child, but if you also are someone who doesn't want to do that, there are formulas like Kendamil or like really any brand. I'm not going to tell you what to or not to use. A
Right.
happy baby is a fed baby. And like
Mm-hmm.
I stand by that because I gave birth. Well, I had my C-section, which I guess that's
You
still
gave birth. I can't believe you don't say that. You shock me.
It's I don't know. I feel like I need to get used to saying that because yeah, I mean, I guess I still gave birth, but
You
hold
just
on, we're
gave
gonna
birth
have
out of
to
a different area.
I birthed through my belly a child. And no, so uh reco- they a C-section's really fast. I think I was in there for like an hour max. But once they, took Jules out of my belly and started to clean her up, from that point it felt like maybe 15 minutes before I was like closed up. Um, and they took me she was with me and I had no idea what I was doing. Um, and I'm not joking you when I went from like having the hardest 24 hours of listening to my child cry and having no idea how to help her to
Oh
giving
my
her
gosh.
this formula, and she was hungry. She was calm. She was fed. Like I feel like it was a 360. Like all she needed was a full belly. And that's when I got like really, really
But
upset
you knew
because
that.
then again that day, another lactation consultant came in to work with me. And I was like, I've had enough. Like I want to go home. Yeah, don't I'll put it on after. I want to go home. I don't want to be laying here as you literally like contort my boobs in every which direction or try to help me figure out how to hold my child like to get her mouth like I'm not happy. So I went home. That nurse gave me so much formula, so we brought it all home. um the next few days consisted of using that like. And she was like, I know they say their bellies
Yeah.
are like only supposed to hold maybe 1 ounce or so little, but like this girl was downing them that I was like, but she did not spit up, she didn't throw up. So like, right.
So
Um,
then it was good. But
and
that's the
my
thing. The
mother's
whole time you
intuition was
knew
literally like,
that
she
she
is
needed to eat.
hungry and they
Mother
weren't
knows
giving me
best.
formula for her. And it was so frustrating because like,
Right.
no,
I cannot
thumbs
believe
down
they
on the
didn't do
screen, they
that
give me a thumbs
immediately. Yeah, why is it showing that? But it's just crazy to me that they didn't give you formula when you were asking for it. But also it's like you were saying you didn't want to breastfeed, and also we're first time moms, how much do we know? But sometimes
It's
mother's
wild.
instinct is really just like really instinctual. It's instinctual, really. And So you're like, I just need formula because I just need to feed her. You're like, forget about
It's
me, forget about this. Like,
it. And
give the
it,
baby formula. And you
I mean,
knew.
it
You were right.
was listening to her cry, like it was that newborn cry, and like they would all laugh like that she had a
Yeah.
set of lungs, and I'm like, but she shouldn't be using her lungs if somebody just gave me what she needed, like. So it
Mhm.
was.
Yeah,
and
that's so
and
frustrating.
hindsight,
I'm
I
sorry.
definitely know now, going into, as long as everything works out, like my next experience of mother baby, and I will want to try to breastfeed again, obviously, but like I will not tolerate, if it's not
Right.
working, give me formula, like cut and dry. So now let's
Right.
get to being home, because as I said, I am still breastfeeding, which is so crazy to me because I never wanted to.
Right. That's why I'm like, how
So
does this tie in? I need to
now
know.
I get home, and I think I had shared that I had to hire a night nurse. Did I ever share this? Okay. She's up.
Hmm.
Okay. That's fine. I had to hire a night nurse, and uh she was also like studying to be a lactation consultant. She was a young girl, honestly. I was pretty desperate in those few weeks leading up to my C-section, knowing my situation and that I would need help.
Right.
um so I found her through a Facebook moms group. Someone had recommended her. I did like a brief phone interview with her, and she was so calm. And her energy was like literally, I was like, you know what? I don't need to know anything else about you. Like, this is who I need. No,
The
seriously. Like,
energy is what you're
I
bringing.
didn't even ask. Like, maybe I should have asked to seen her resume or like spoken to other families, but she was just like calming to me. And that's what I knew I would need, being a new mom with my life at that point. So she came over night one that we were home from the hospital. And, I was sitting with her, because at that point they said we were waking Jules up every 2 hours to feed. And every time I would
Yeah.
try to get her to latch, and I would get really frustrated, and she would try to give me tips, but like it still wouldn't work. So and so now I was also pumping already. So I was trying to pump to get my milk to drop.
Okay.
Not having known again that your milk doesn't drop. She shared that information with me. So I was trying, and that's what I kept doing. I just kept trying. And I had one mom friend of mine, not even a close friend, but somebody who has 3 kids. And I would call her, and she would like almost coach me mentally. Because I would be like, yeah, today wasn't a good day. Christina, if you listen to this, shout out to you, because you literally are the reason that I'm probably still breastfeeding. But she was just like so um like, she didn't put the pressure on me that I felt maybe from others, and like would really just like kind of guide me. And I got to the point, and we would talk about it. It was like, try once a day. Like, once a day, try. If she doesn't latch, give her formula, or like it's okay. And so we did that. And then around 2 weeks, so this went on for almost 2 weeks of trying. And I know, like, he had an electric recliner, that, or a hospital bed, that he would stay in. So like he was looking at me from the couch, like trying to do all this, and like he was helpless, and he just wanted to give me support because he saw how emotional I was getting, and like he couldn't even come and do that. So like it was really difficult. And then something changed. And like nothing, I did nothing different. Jules did nothing different. But one day I just put her on my boob at like week 3, and she was drinking. And I was like, whoa. Like I wasn't fighting. I was always so scared to like
Did you
even
cry?
breathe when I was trying to get her to latch, because I didn't want my breath or my chest moving to like change her ability. But now I was like sitting there, and I could tell she
Yeah.
was really on, but it didn't hurt. But I could tell it was different. And I was sitting there, and like that was the beginning of loving it, because number one, I was so proud of myself for like having stuck it out.
Oh my gosh, your persistence is
But it's
admirable. I
because
mean,
I
like,
only
that's a
tried
long
once a day.
time.
I think that I tolerated it because then I was like, it's not like I was giving up, but I was like, no, I tried and it didn't work. So we're just gonna feed her the formula. And I had a lot to use from this
Yeah.
Michelle woman, so I was like, use it up.
Yeah.
Um, and um,
Oh my
yeah, so
gosh. It's crazy.
but I also was then pumping. So I started nursing her at that two
Yeah.
to 3 hour mark. And then in between, I would try to pump. And I started to like pump a decent amount, like 4 to 5 ounces. Um, but that lasted for probably like 4 months that I was doing this. And like when I tell you the sound of a breast pump fully triggers me, I do not want to hear it.
Same.
I ended up getting like the hands-free one. So I had the like one that you have to like yeah, it's the Spectra, yeah, the blue
Spectra,
one. And then I also ended up getting the Mom Cozy ones, which yeah, so I used
the M5. So I did
okay.
the opposite. I started with the wearables and
The
I
Spectra
switched
were
to the Spectra
definitely
when I
like
was trying
much more
to bring it
efficient
back.
as far as like producing, but less
Yeah.
convenient. But
Yeah.
either way, looking back, I hated pumping. Like, I think that, and I got to, I want to say
Yeah.
6 months, and that's when I like tapped out of that because I still have a little in my freezer, which obviously you know. Um, not that I even need it now that she's a year, but I'd say I produce yeah, but I
No, you use
produce
it
like
for
a
baths
normal,
and
like an
stuff.
average amount. I was not an overproducer. My boobs rarely leaked, and if so, it would be like once every so often that they were like full. Um, but yeah, our once my pumping journey ended too, breastfeeding became even more important and like I I almost feel bad like I hope no one listening to this is gets sad hearing this but the bond that Jules and I have when I'm nursing her is something that like I wouldn't trade and that's why
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
14 months postpartum and like scared to give it up because it's so beautiful and I mean, I also share this for anyone who doesn't think that they want to breastfeed. Like, I didn't either. So it's a whirlwind for me, like this topic, only because like I really did feel so strongly about not needing to. Um, and like I also introduced her to formula, like just so other people could give her bottles if it wasn't for like having my breast milk. Like we just had the milk.
Yeah. See, that's important too, so that they can take a bottle, like,
Yes.
so
Like
that you
I
can
did not
do
want to be
something,
a breast
you know?
I just knew that the dependency of being a breastfeeding only mom was not the choice that would make me the happiest
For you.
because I needed to know like she was
Yeah.
going to really take a bottle from anyone and not need my boobs. Although now I'm like every time like I go to nurse her, I get so scared that she's not gonna want my boobs because I've heard of people being
Just
like,
gonna
I wasn't
refuse.
ready, but like my child made the decision for me. Like one time they just like stopped and like
Yeah, but then there's also people who breastfeed their kids till they're like
true,
4 years old.
true.
So don't
Which
worry, you got
I
time.
don't want like it's so crazy because as I'm sitting here and I'm like, I
You
don't
don't want
want
that
that.
either.
I'm like, watch me in 4 years, like still be whipped it out for jewels.
Yeah, I was just gonna
I
say
just
we'll
love
we'll
it.
get
It's
back to
so
that in
nice.
4 years. She'll be like, I
But yeah,
want to
so
do
no,
this.
I honestly, I mean, we'll see. But I think like come March, April, I'm going away for the first time, like for an extended time without her. So I think that'll probably be it for me. Um, but Yeah, so that was my journey, and my journey is still continuing as far as breastfeeding. Formula, we did Kendamil just because I knew I wanted to go by a European brand versus American, just because there's a bit,
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
from what I know, there's a bit more research done there. Right, right.
Restrictions
So
and
yeah, being someone who never wanted to breastfeed and breastfeeding, and I can just say, if you're going into it, if you're in it, or if you're out of it, just give yourself grace for whatever happens, because it's really not fully up to us. Like, the universe decides and your child decides, and
so true.
please know that as long as your baby is fed, they're happy. Like, it doesn't matter the source. So,
Yeah. Fed is best, 100%. And I don't care who
yes,
tries to argue, it's fed is best. Like, yes, sure, breast milk has probably more nutrients, but
exactly. So
what's really
it's just
important is
so
the food you
crazy, and
get.
it's a really crazy topic for us to discuss, because going in as two new moms, like, we had no idea. I mean, I'm sure you've never spoken to a lactation consultant. Like, that was never something that I was prepared for. Um, so just, yeah,
Yeah.
it all goes back to advocating for yourself.
Yeah, it's true. And like obviously all these experiences, and then obviously talking with you, because we truly have quite opposite experiences on everything so far,
Yeah.
which is really interesting to hear. Cause I'm like sitting there and I'm like, yeah. And yeah. So as I was saying, it's like it really goes back to advocating for yourself. And also like now I am taking notes in my head of what I'm gonna do differently next time and how I'm gonna advocate
Right.
for myself. Cause I was literally just going with the flow. But something you said before really stuck with me, and it didn't make me sad or anything, but it definitely is a thought bubble when you said the bond that you and Jules have because you breastfed and like while you were breastfeeding. It's like that is so true because you know what? When I was pumping, I would sit there and I was playing this paint by numbers game on my phone. They do a daily challenge every day. That's what I would do. I would color my pictures to try and block out the pain while someone
Yeah.
was having a good time playing with my daughter. So
Yeah. That,
yeah, wasn't the greatest. So that's why I was kind of excited when it ended. I was like, oh
yeah.
well, oh I tried. It was rough. It hurt so bad. Like, and yes, the flange size was sized correctly, and yes, I tried a different pump, and I did all the things,
And,
but
like,
it was
that's what I
so
mean. Like,
painful
you,
for me.
it's
I
not
hated
up to
it.
you. And you even
However,
tried. Like, you went above and beyond to be like, okay, maybe I
right,
can do this differently, even having not wanted to be doing it. And it's like we do
yeah,
these things effortlessly because, like, it's what we think
yeah,
we should maybe do. Um, but you don't
right,
have to. And, like, you could have easily been like, you know what? I'm done. Like, we're not buying another pump. We're not buying. So I'm
yeah.
proud of you for having tried that, but I'm also proud of you for not having wanted to. Right, right,
Knowing when to
exactly.
say,
Um,
yeah. Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I didn't like kind of a little the opposite, but it's like I didn't want to, but I was producing. Like without even
yeah,
doing, it was just coming out. So I was like, well, okay. And then I wasn't really exactly ready to
right.
stop, but it was done. So I will say, I will say that I told Zach many times when my boobs were really full right before a pump session, I said, you see this? Take a picture and send it to a plastic surgeon because this is
Wait,
what I
I'm
want. Right?
cracking up. Hold
They
on,
were
I have
so
two things
good.
to share
So
on this
good.
topic. Number one, I had somebody, like, tell me before, like, having been in this position, that, like, that was their stripper boobs, like, that's what they felt. And I never understood it until I literally looked at myself in the mirror with my boobs full, and I was like, you would
They
think there
stand
was, like,
up.
the
You're like,
thickest
wow, I haven't
silicone in
seen
there
that in a
because they're
while.
so rounded and just, oh god. Okay, but I have the funniest story in regards to producing,
So good.
because to this day, my left boob produces like double than my right. So when I first started nursing, Probably like that first month was when like your body is like really adjusting. Now my both my boobs produce as Jules has kind of trained them to, I guess. Like your body learns how much the
Right.
baby's eating, so it responds. But at first, it's
Maybe.
they're filling up,
Yeah.
as you know, which is why you were overproducing. I have a picture. I will. This is between you and I that I will send to you, not for the world to see, but
Absolutely.
my boobs were so asymmetrical that like the left one was probably like an F. Like I'm not joking you, it was triple the size and then my like right boob was maybe a B. Like it was no, it wasn't cuz it was
Oh
bigger,
my god.
but
Yeah,
I
I
was
could. I
like
know what you're saying now.
weighed down on one side consistently for like a decent amount of time. It would just like constantly be filling up as the right one wasn't. That it was the funniest thing. So I would like send pictures to my friends to be like, guys, look at my boobs.
God. Like, what is happening here? I think honestly, seeing like after seeing yourself, just your belly just protrudes above everything else, and then suddenly you're not you don't have that big of a belly anymore because like you're still postpartum, it takes time, but your boobs are huge. I felt like a supermodel. I was like,
Meanwhile, you
"Woo, we
have
are
a
back,
diaper on
baby!"
or a
Like
pant.
especially
Like
because I yeah, yeah, well, but I loved it because it was like the sun was starting to come out. It was the end of March, early April. It was like
yeah.
all of a sudden I'm skinny in my terms. I was skinny and I had big full boobs. I was like,
Oh
I'm back. Like
no,
we are ready to go. I felt so good about it. And like obviously in hindsight,
sure.
I'm still postpartum, but just if I could take those little moments of how I felt about that, it's like I
Yeah.
was just looking for little things to feel good about, to be
That's
like,
so
look,
funny. You were like, these are what
good
we're
look at
gonna
me,
send to a
trying
plastic
to make
surgeon
yourself
now.
feel better.
Because I completely
Oh yeah.
understand.
No, they were good.
They are. Yeah.
They were good. I still think about them. I
Wait,
just felt
while
so
we're
much better, but
here,
now
I
they're
don't
like,
know if this is like factual or not, or maybe it's not normal, but did your nipples change? Like the size, the color, all the things? Okay.
they did go
Like when
back,
I
but
was
yeah.
pregnant, they got like, yeah,
Yeah,
they
pregnant,
got
they
a
went
little
from like
bigger, but the color
this
didn't
to
change.
like,
But then once I started breastfeeding her, they got a little bit darker. And somebody told me it's so
yeah.
they can find them. And I don't know if that's true or not.
Honestly, I heard that too, and I'm not so sure if that's
Okay,
true.
well,
I'm not so
yeah,
sure. I think that's just a thing that they say.
right,
They
because
get
all
bigger
I
and
can
darker so they
see
can
is like
find
black
them.
and
Like,
white
no,
at
they
that
find
point,
with
so
their
it makes it
mouth.
more contrasting. But like,
I mean, I guess, but they're really feeling with their
right.
mouth. Like
Or you're
they're
just like
looking with
stuffing
their
it into
mouth,
their
if
mouth.
that makes sense. But you know what yeah, you know what a newborn baby looks like. Their eyes are closed 90% of the time. And it's just like, they're like, even still, I go to give Vienna her bottle and she's like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just ridiculous.
Wow, this
I
was a
can't.
good one. Okay.
This
So,
was a good one. This is
yeah,
great.
I do too. And
I
I'm
love
glad we
this.
really have different experiences, but I'm so interested to hear everybody
Mm,
else's experiences as well. So if you guys
same.
feel comfortable, please comment and share with us. Um, oh my God, yeah,
You
then
could DM us both on
whatever.
Instagram if you
Let's
want to
be
do more
friends.
privately. Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I
Yes.
think we'll be having guests soon, right? One
Yes.
day. I'd love to have some guests. So
Amazing.
let us know.
Well, cheers.
This was
I'm
good though.
drinking my poppy. I'm gonna go
Perfect.
eat because this mama is hungry. But I look forward to our next episode.
Hmm.
Talk to you guys later. Bye.
Absolutely. Cheers. Thanks for listening.